hold up. I do this. This is something that I do before I go to sleep. So I forgot this off. I went live. But I'm here. I'm here. Okay. So here's the thing. I have a couple of things to do, but that's the good part about it because guess what? I got something that I want you guys to listen to before I get started. It's going to be probably about 15, 20 minutes. So that'll be something for y'all to, really tune into. Very interesting. It really is very educational, all of that. So here we go. About to dive in while I can.
Nineveh was the location of where the Ashurbanipal library was, where the largest cache of cuneiform tablets in the world was ever found. And it was this beautiful gate coming into this old ancient temple. And ISIS went through and they bulldozed and destroyed the entire thing. It's gone now. And it's such a sad thing. And so just want to mention, then that was destroyed in 2015 by ISIS. So the Taliban and then ISIS systematically went through, and these are not the only sites, there's many, many others, but they systematically went through and destroyed so much of ancient history. And when I talk to researchers like Brian Forster and others and discussing the importance of these, the common theme that comes up is, and he hasn't said this, but others have mentioned, is that, you just can't get into these sites anymore. It was too dangerous. And that's the very idea, right? Create some war in the region so nobody can get in there and then secretly go through and destroy everything. So it's a very sad thing that have happened.
Beautiful, Matt. What triggers me, to that statement, and I know we're going to get to this before the end of the show, but these ancient, monolithic monuments that were created by high technology, again, before the recent, attributions like the Roman Empire. I think of Machu Picchu, right? And the whole Sacred Valley and all of those amazing monuments that are all at 9,000 and 10,000 foot elevation, like every single one of them, right? And I've been there, spent there, and I have all these pictures on my wall that they're all from Machu Picchu. But it's the same thing. Billy, let's talk about, again, and Matt, you mentioned it, obviously a conspiracy, okay? For people that, don't want to hear that. I mean, obviously the people that watch us are already way beyond that, but there's a conspiracy of elites to safeguard this information from the masses, from us, from people awakening to, again, this golden age of high technology and all this great prosperity and abundance that was clearly on the earth. Some of the things that you guys mentioned, Matt put on the notes, are obviously the Vatican archives, and that's a whole show in and of itself. The National Museum of Baghdad, which was raided and looted, right, back during the Bush administration. Of course, the Smithsonian. God, I can't wait to hear you guys talk about the Smithsonian. Every time I think of the Smithsonian, I think of the Raiders of the Lost Ark episode, where they show that giant warehouse with all those boxes, and they put the Ark of the Covenant in there. That's the Smithsonian, right? And then, of course, the Shoyan collection. But Billy, I'll go to you. Why? Why are they preventing this knowledge and this awareness to get out to humanity?
Yeah. The thing about this whole suppression of information is because once you rob somebody of their true history, then you can control them.
Exactly.
It's like, for example, most African Americans, we've been robbed of our true ancient past or our true ancestral history. And because of that, we just lean on whatever's given to us, to be quite honest with you.
Sure.
It's kind of put us in this mental enslavement type of a situation, along with everybody else, but we're a little bit deeper than most, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
And people, well, why did you just snap out of this? It's 400 years. You can't really just snap out of it like that. It's in the epigenetic memory.
Right.
And so by them ripping this information and keeping it away from the citizens of the world, every generation that keeps coming out has been deprived of this information and getting the fake story. Exactly. And those fake stories go into the epigenetic memories, which are stored in the DNA in the body, and that can persist for up to 20 generations. So the work that we're doing now is going to create a ripple in space-time that's going to affect future generations in the third dimension. So we're talking about 20 generations from now are going to feel the full-blown effect of what we're doing today. That's why we have to consistently put this information out and keep digging for as much truth as we can possibly get, because the elites want to suppress it, because that by suppressing it and giving us the fake or the false information, They mix a little bit of truth in there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? They do a little dab of the guy with the salt. They do a dab of, put a little bit of salt in there, you know, and then they stir it around, man, with a whole bunch of fake stuff. And then we eat it, and now we're all screwed up. And they know that. And then they just got us running in circles, man. They just got us sitting back laughing at us, you know? So that's what it's all about. It's a control system, and man, it's really well thought out. And the thing about them is they plan for millennia. They don't plan for tomorrow. They know humans are going, you know, on Friday when I get paid, I'm going to do this. They're talking about, you know, in 3,000 years, I'd like to see this happen. It's a different way of thinking.
Don't hate the player, hate the game, right?
For real, man. That's what's going on.
They are multi-dimensional, way in front of us. I mean, remember, Matt, Gerald used to say, we were talking about beings with 12 to 1,500 IQs. 10 to 15 times a standard human being walking around the planet. So Billy just brilliantly said it exactly right. They are so out-calculating us. Now, again, I don't want to make it seem like we can't take our power back as children of light, but yeah, I mean, the game that they are playing is so incredible. Like, I just think of, like, even what's happening right now, and I don't want to rabbit hole, but, like, think about what's happening right now. Right now in Washington, D.C., there's like 3 to 5 million people. And they're, you know, the negative energy vibration, you know, it's like people are like, are you watching it? I'm like, no, I'm not watching it. I'm not going to put myself in it. I've opted out of all that. But to the point, Billy just said it, that's what they want. That's the frequency, that low vibrational, that dissonant hum is attracting everybody to the fight.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
to the struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible, man.
Yeah, man.
Hey guys, what's going on? Steve Campbell. Quick commercial for the Optimized Tribe with U.S. Navy SEAL Michael Jaco and I every Monday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. There is not a single group online where you will get the highest level intel that Michael and I can provide you, from mastering intuition to fully optimizing your hormonal health to improving your fitness to raising your vibration and increasing your consciousness. There isn't a single group online with two dudes like Michael and myself helping people become the best version of themselves. It's literally $99 a month, and you get a 90-minute call with me and Michael every single Monday night. Don't wait another second. Sign up now at the link is tribe.com. I appreciate you guys, and I send you tremendous love and light.
Just expand on what Billy said. Remember this important quote, because it really explains this entire thing. And this really connects, I guess you could say, to the Romans and then those handlers later on that came after. But he who controls the past controls the future, and he who controls the present controls the past. That's how this game works. That's why all of this is being done. It's to control the narrative. But then at the same time, they know there's all these anomalies around the world that just don't make sense with this narrative. You know, if you go to Cairo, Egypt, you go to Abu Sir, an ancient pyramid site there that most people have never even heard of. You find round drill holes, as well as in places like South America, all throughout Egypt, actually.
Getting the ear full of this information.
Round drill holes that on what any human hand could ever create. The only way you could get that is with some kind of machine. And then at the same time, these giant blocks, like in the Valley Temple, we've seen machine cuts, these lines across them that would only be possible with some giant diamond tip blade. The point I'm trying to make is those things are all staring at us. They're all there for this inquisitive mind to find, and we have all these people that have gone in, and I love these, right? You don't have a chance to visit an ancient site. Somebody does some 360 video around, and you can sort of look around these places, and you're like, wow, you know, I feel like I'm sitting there looking at that. Well, that's available real time for anyone who wants to see it. So how do you prevent anyone from going to see those things? You just create all of these distractions and illusions and deceptions and keep everybody focused on all of these things that don't really matter, you know, right? Bring about which candidate is going to become the next leader, whereas it's all just controlled and corrupted at the very top and it's part of the same system. None of this stuff is what we think of it. It's a great illusion of free will and choice. And really, we're just being led around like sheep, like I say, with a farmer with a carrot. And we're really never obtaining anything. It's not until you can step outside that farm to look back at it to truly understand what's going on. And then once you get out of that farm and you're on the other side of that fence, there's not a lot of other animals out there
Right.
that have made it. And so you're looking around, you're like, where is everyone?
Mhm.
And there's not really anyone to talk to. And all those animals are like, look at him out there. What is he doing? We have all this given to us. I don't understand why they're running free in that field in the sunshine. That's the kind of situation we're in, is that we need to break this cycle of control and open up people's minds to the possibilities of everything. Look at what we're part of. We're in a vast universe with billions of star systems and planets. We're this tiny little blue speck that has had this incredible history, and we're fighting over all these things that don't really matter and are so minor in the grand scheme of things. So Jay, Billy, and I, and many others that are at the forefront of this, we have to remember, nobody else in the mainstream is going to do this. No. We're waiting for someone to like come on TV and be like, all right, guys, you know, we're going to just lay it out there and finally tell you, I'm sorry about all the lies in the past. All right, here we go. You know, we've decided it's time. No one's going to do that. It's up to us to change this paradigm and to make those ripples that really matter in the future.
Beautiful. Yeah. Okay, so let me ask both of you guys, because there's a lot of, one of the next topics is positive changes around the world, which I talk about all the time. I've probably said this 10 times this week in various streams and podcasts in my community, but the golden age is already here, right? Technologically, there's so many, observations of it, right? Like if you can just take advantage of the free energy, biomedical enhancements, like even the company that I own, right? Like we sell a peptide cream that literally revitalizes your face. There's stuff out there that can completely heal the body. So it's already out there in like bits and pieces. But let me ask you guys this. I really want both of you guys to go deep on this, as long as we don't go really rabbit hole. Matt, you talked about in the Smithsonian. I mentioned the Smithsonian, the whole.
I want to talk about that before we move on too.
Oh yeah. So the Nephilim skeletons, right? So Billy, I'm going to go to you first. Like, what are, in your opinion, right? I know we're all just hypothesizing, educator-wise, but who are the Nephilim skeletons? What are the Nephilim skeletons? And are they the kind of like ancestors of the real control, ownership, elites, whatever you want to call them, Illuminati, royal families? Are they kind of the ancestors of who's still in power right now here on this planet? Go to you first.
I think they're definitely still in that bloodline. Based off of the ancient tablets, from what I've been able to glean and understand, it seems as if the Nephilim, some of these bones may be actual Anunnaki, because these Anunnaki people were not immortal in that they could not be killed. They could actually be killed. Right. And some of them may be this, after the Great Flood, they want to have a liaison between themselves and human beings, so they would create these demigods. So it would be a half human and half Anunnaki ruler or king, and most likely, in my opinion, some of those may have been the initial offspring of Nephilim, and then whoever they gave birth to. But it seems to be that there were a couple of different versions of these giants. Some were direct Anunnaki, some were these half human, half Anunnaki, or these demigods, and then some were some kind of genetic, I guess, I don't want to call it a mistake, but some of these giants only had one eye. Some of them were kind of malformed or deformed in various different ways, whether it was mental disabilities or other. So there were some really high intelligent Nephilim, and there were also some giants that, for whatever reason, were almost like genetic mutations and weren't really fully cognizant of who they truly were, where they came from. But I do believe that bloodline is still the same line running along through till today. Because you look at the Sumerian kings list prior to the flood, and then you see the flood come, and the Emerald Tablets, it talks about then let's go back out, let's go to the land of Ham, and we kickstart civilization and make that the home base. From there, Egypt, after the Kemetic era is over, we start the dynastic era. They start to get overthrown by many different people. They get overthrown 7 times. Those pharaohs, those families go across Arabia, migrate up into Europe. They create a new monarchy. Now you've got the same monarchical society again, and that ends up from John Lackland's bloodline being related to most of, not all, but most of the presidents of the United States.
Rule of kings.
Yeah, rule of kings. It just gives you the small, breadcrumbs here saying, wait a minute, and then they found the book of Jesus' wife, which they never talked about. It's at Harvard Library right now.
Right.
And so he most
I heard
likely
that
got
lick
married and maybe
before.
had kids. So the Merovingian bloodline may
I was
still
just
be
going to
there.
say the Merovingians, man. That's it. You just did it.
Yeah, you know.
Okay, so Matt, Billy, beautiful, man. Amazing. We're really tying a lot of things here together. So I want for people that are of the literal, scriptural, the God spell, as Gerald would say, like, I want you to tie that together with what Billy just said with the fallen angels, right? Because people will hear that terminology and then, listen to us talk about the Anunnaki and the Nephilim and kind of like say, okay, well, tie it together. So can you tie that together so people can really follow here what we're talking about?
Yeah, so it really is the lost connection back to our origin, but also some of the things that have happened in the past, because it's not that we're all Nephilim. It's that there were things that happened in the past where the Anunnaki gods, as the story tells it, became, they intermingled with human women and they created giant offspring. They were basically like half Anunnaki, like Billy said. And those remnants have carried on. But I want to go backwards so people understand where this started. So in one of the chapters in the book that Billy and I are writing, The Ethic of Humanity, I'm going to be talking all about, the chapter is literally about the Nephilim and about some of the new information that I've come up with that is really just incredible, talking about King Og and the sons of Enoch and all these things. But the best piece of evidence we have for understanding how this all started, or at least one of the best pieces, comes from the book of Enoch. And there's actually a chapter called the Book of Giants. And it mentions how there were 300 of these higher being Anunnaki that started here when they came. And 200 of the 300 became fallen. And they came down onto Mount Hermon, which is in Lebanon.
Yes.
What's amazing about that is Lebanon is the location, or is the same country in the same area as Baalbek. Now, Baalbek is where we find the perfection of this ancient high technology, to where there are blocks that have been laid, single blocks in Baalbek, Lebanon, that are over 1,000 tons.
Can't be lifted with our technology right now.
Yeah, and I was just watching a great show the other day where they were comparing, well, how big are those blocks in comparison to the trucks and the construction vehicles we have today? And they showed this, they interviewed this quarry worker that had these giant backloaders, and he was talking about how they can, in these giant trucks, they can fit about 50 tons. 50 tons in one of these trucks. And he said, if you want to go over 50 tons, you need a crane. But even the cranes are limited in a lot of those capacities as you get bigger than that. So in Baalbek, Lebanon, we have a block that's almost 1,100 tons. If you were to try to lay trucks on top of each other in buses, it would be like an entire parking lot full of giant vehicles that would equal that amount. So I digress. Getting back to what I said, in the book of Enoch, it mentions that these fallen angels descended from higher dimensions into our reality onto Mount Hermon, and then spread apart this knowledge and created these civilizations around the world. And how that connects to the Nephilim is that they were known as fallen angels that came down because they decided to go against these rules that exist. Are rules that exist for creation. Okay? It's mind-boggling for some that don't know that.
Right.
But there's a lot of ancient texts that mention that there are these defined rules if you are a creator. If you are a creator being, which may be really what the universe is full of. I don't think it's what we think. I don't think you would fly around and see industrial polluting civilizations all over the place. I think that groups reach certain states where they literally don't even need to become physical. I think it's like it almost gets into like a science fiction like realm. But remember, we are consciousness that is non-physical. It's just energy that's in a physical, temporary, mortal body. Okay?
Avatar.
What really makes us who we are is our experience here, and then the ability to not lose the identity of who we really are, and to think that we're just spiritual in this mortal body and that's going to be it. So what are the Nephilim? Well, these fallen angels, these 200 Anunnaki fallen angels that descended to Mount Hermon, they decided that human women were just beautiful. It was something that they just could not get past. And I even think that it was more about like this jealousy over controlling bloodlines here.
Sure.
So then someone would, have sex with some woman here, and another group would, and before you know it, these bloodlines appear in these different civilizations, and they have giant kings.
Yeah.
Like Jay and Billy mentioned, it wasn't that they were just regular civilians in society that were giants just walking around, like, doing their daily activities. These bloodlines that had connections back to these Nephilim, these ancient Anunnaki gods, they were put into places of power. And that was mentioned before. Particular places of power as being like a liaison between them. But not all of them, like Billy said, not all of them were. Some of them just sort of wandered the earth after the Great Deluge. And I've mentioned this before, but when Magellan was sailing down through the circumnavigating the world, when he was down in Patagonia, they had examples where they came across giants down there. They reported they were over 10 feet tall. Now, Magellan was subsequently killed in the Philippines before he could get home, but his records did make it back. And there was detailed records in those logs talking about those giants, but that information vanished. And then around the world, systematically, we saw these discoveries being made all around the world, from Mesopotamia, with great skeletons being found to places like the United States, Wisconsin, down through the Mississippi Valley. The indigenous cultures of those regions had stories of these red-headed giants, just like we find in Ireland and in England, all over the world, these red-headed giants with these specific bloodlines that were truly giants. And it wasn't like, how, I know people are going to go here, right? They say, well, I saw in the Guinness Book of World Records this guy that was the tallest in the world because of some deformity in his genetics that made him tall.
Robert Wardlow is his name.
Exactly. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about specific genetics that are just giant genetics that come from somewhere else. I just did a show with Brian Forster the other day where he was talking about these elongated skulls that are found around the world, from Paracas, Peru, and all the way into Egypt. They tested them, and they found that they contain non-human DNA.
Yeah.
DNA that's not shared by any of the groups in the region at all. In fact, a lot of it can be traced back to the Black Sea, Turkey area. So the point I'm trying to make is these skeletons were found around the world. United States, they were finding them in these huge mounds, like tombs, basically. These mounds that they were buried inside because they obviously had a great stature in the past. So they get found, they get put into newspaper articles, and people see them like, wow, look at that guy standing next to that giant skeleton. And then poof, they're gone, disappear. And Jay Campbell nailed it on the head when he gave that Indiana Jones comparison. You have these situations where these giant back rooms are just filled with artifacts that don't belong with our narrative. And so what happens? Oh, well, they'll eventually get cataloged. They're just, we're putting them back there temporarily. But what we find is a systematic attempt around the world by these elites to just simply take these things, and they don't always destroy them because there's some respect there. They just hide them. They keep them locked away somewhere. And those the 4 locations I want to mention where, well, 3, but then one that I can add to it is the Vatican Archives, the National Museum of Baghdad, Iraq, which Jay mentioned, which was raided by U.S. soldiers in 2013. U.S. soldiers went in, were seen carrying all kinds of statues and things out, and then they just disappeared. And then, of course, the Smithsonian with all of these giant skeleton statues that have just all disappeared, and I mean a lot. If you do research on it, something like over 100 different giant skeletons have been found that all disappeared.
Yeah.
And there's a huge controversy there. But the last one I want to mention that I don't think most people have ever heard of, and this is just further fuel for the fire. It's called the Schoyen collection, and that's Shoyen collection. I highly recommend people go look into what that is. But what it is, it's the largest private collection of antiquities and ancient texts in the world. And where they got them from is what makes this so telling. They're artifacts that were obtained on the black market from other people and terrorist groups that went in and raided these places and then sold them. But instead of giving them back, they have hoarded them in this giant private collection that's shared between Oslo, Norway, and London, England. And it contains almost like extensive amounts of things that we don't even fully know everything that's in the library. But the point I'm trying to make is a lot of countries later on, like Iraq, in Egypt have come forward and said, look, these things were illegally taken during Civil War periods and sold. We want them back. They're part of our cultural heritage, and they've been refused. Wow. None of these artifacts have made it back, to the best of my knowledge. And it just shows you that we have a situation where the thing that doesn't go along with this narrative, it's either hidden away, it's thrown into a world of deception where you make you think it's not real. Like, for instance, a lot of the ancient terms we talk about in tablets, it's been made believe that none of it was even real, and then we're reading it directly out of these things. So we have a situation where Billy and I and others, and Jay and others, are trying to come to bring this stuff back and preserve it, because we're losing so much of our ancient history. Before long, we're going to end up in a paradigm that is completely not real, and we're really moving towards that.
People in the lab today.
Guys, this podcast is phenomenal. I just texted my wife and said, wow. Let me just ask you guys both. This is a question that, guys like us talk about it indirectly, but we'll talk about it directly right now. But I'm going to go to you, Billy. Like, is this Anunnaki, negative, whatever it is? Is it, it could be AI. We hear all this, what's going on right now. We're clearly seeing AI. And I know one of the bullet points we're going to talk about is transhumanism, and where they're attempting to take this at some point in the show. But
told y'all,
is this controlling force,
transhumanism,
these ruling families,
look that video back up,
archons, whatever you want to call it?
This is my first time listening to this audio.
Third dimensional space.
It popped up on my screen, and I started listening to it. I'm like, oh, I can use this in my life today.
Your thoughts, Billy?
But they only talk about the same thing I be talking about. Nothing different.
Answers to that question. One answer is, I do believe that they actually walk amongst us. I truly do believe that they are walking amongst us right now, and you wouldn't be able to even tell you were standing next to one of them at this point. And when I was in the remote viewing course with Major Ed Dames, me and him had extensive talks. We sat and talked for almost 13 hours straight one day.
Nice.
Yeah, incredible conversations. And he said that there's a base down in Antarctica, which I knew about because we have all the research facilities all over that area. But these beings are still down there, and they go and come as they please, and all the governments in the world know this, and there's nothing they can do to stop them.
Right.
I believe that they're walking amongst us right now. Then I also believe there may be another group totally separate from the Atlantean Anunnakis, that may be multidimensional or multi-universal. And what that means is, universes, I believe there's a multiverse, and everything is really stacked on top of each other.
Sure.
And the only thing that stops you from accessing that other dimension or that other universe is a frequency.
Right.
So where our atomic frequency is set to, our subatomic frequency is set to this third dimension in this universe. But what's to say a 4 million year old advanced civilization, okay, we're barely 100 years old in terms of technology.
Sure.
Forget about the 200,000 we've been here trying to use bones and stuff. So a 4 million year old advanced civilization now figured out, we can phase shift our subatomic frequency and move into other dimensions or move into other universes. We can time travel. We can do all these crazy things. And, there could be people, breaking temporal laws and even engaging in our civilizations and engaging mankind, violating all different types of rules and laws that have been set, like Matt said, that have been set up. And when you look at Star Trek, they have the same kind of laws and rules in place, even though that's science fiction. They got it from somewhere. It just makes logical sense,
Right.
There's got to be these rules and these laws in place, not to tinker with these less advanced civilizations. But I believe there has been tinkering going on, possibly from two separate groups: a physical group in the third dimension, and maybe a multi-dimensional or multi-universal group. That may be two totally separate groups.
Right. Beautiful. Well said. I mean, I kind of want to just mention to Matt, I don't want to rabbit hole because we have about 30 minutes left, and we have the important stuff to talk about, which is like where we're going. I want to mention, this, so many people talk about it. We've talked about it on shows. Billy's mentioned it. You guys talk about it. The reptilian consciousness. Now, is the reptilian consciousness what Billy just said, this out of our realm or out of our space-time, group beings, maybe an energy that, is like affecting this, people in this third dimensional vibration? I mean, just to mention it before we go on, what do you think?
You asking me, Jay?
Yeah, I'm asking you that.
You know, the more that I've delved into that, it's a difficult topic. I think a lot of people, and this is just my opinion.
Sure.
Anyone who believes what they want, that's fine. But when I've studied this and I've really looked into it, there's definitely the possibility that there are beings that could fall under that type of category that maybe are invisible that we can't perceive. But I think when I think of that term, I really think of the primitive left brain. And I really think of this aspect where we are constantly conflicted with the aspect of having parts of us that are primitive.
Right.
I think that's why we have all these what are known as primitive urges or demiurges that we are constantly battling. Because I think because we're a combination of two completely different things, we do have this mammal ape side of us that is like the blueprint of us. But then we also have this divine God stance that was this spark and this sentience of energy that is beyond anything that anything on this planet is even capable of. We are truly, like I believe, like gods in this physical mortal body. And the great trick is to make us believe that we're not. I think that's the most difficult thing for people to wrap their heads around. Is the idea that we're extremely important. You know what I mean important? I mean that it may be so important what happens to us. This isn't an egotistical thing just because we're humans.
Sure.
I really believe that everything I've studied, everything that I've looked at, says that even though the universe is vast, and the Fermi paradox, things like that, and the Drake equation explain that there are likely civilizations all throughout. Space is vast, and solar systems are vast, and what we are and what we're part of may be so much more important than we understand. Even though the Earth is just this blue speck in the middle of an endless cosmic ocean, we may be the great experiment that may be determining the entire future of consciousness in the multiverse, because we don't know how extensive this experiment is. What I mean by experiment, when you read cuneiform tablets and a lot of other ancient texts, they specifically talk about how these fallen angel beings came here. They essentially disrupted this reality, and they wanted to create these beings that were in their image, just like Genesis says, created in their image. And we were created here to essentially be workers in this physical reality.
Right.
But the problem was that we became way more advanced than we were supposed to because of certain conflicts that arose with these creator gods. And it's the common story that everyone should know that's inherent now, is that one of these creator gods, or multiple ones of them, fell in love with their creation. And I'm not talking about the prime creator of everything.
Right.
This throughout every spiral and every mathematical calculation. But free will exists everywhere. And the idea behind free will is that you can do anything you want as long as you let that being make its own choices. And so the idea is that we are beings that have been tricked into believing that we're not important. Whereas where we might actually be so important that it may be a complete factor in how this entire experiment in consciousness in a physical body of like a godlike state turns out. So think about this for a minute. What would happen if we destroyed ourselves? Just destroyed ourselves right now? Oh, no. That's the scary thing that I want people to understand. We may be so critical to this story and what we turn into, what we become in the future, that some have even surmised, and I'm gonna stretch this because people want me to stretch sometimes, and I will. I'm not afraid to. Okay.
Oh, don't worry, I got something coming for you when you're done.
Is that we may actually be beings, physical beings here that become something great in the future.
Right.
I mean, something so significant that what we are in the future may already exist now. And they may have come back to try to make sure that this goes the way it should. Right. Because if it doesn't, those who I believe, some of those who are here trying to help things right now, they may not exist if we destroy ourselves.
That's awesome, Matt. So keep going. No, keep going.
So we don't fully know how important we are. But every indication that I've come up with after looking at all of this is that we may literally be the keys to everything. And why do I say that? Look at all the interest that's been played up on our story and all throughout history. I called my last book The Stage of Time because it truly seems like this is a great stage where we're being monitored and watched and influenced by all around us. It really may be like a giant cosmic reality show to sit back but not always sitting back, right? And be watching this and be like, how do these gods in mortal physical bodies, do they ever reach their divinity or do they destroy themselves? Let's sit back and watch it. But then others are like, no. We can't allow them to reach that state. That's going to destroy our story. So we'll influence them to make sure they don't reach that state. I truly believe that just like religion has mentioned, there's a great war in heaven. There's a great war in the dimensions over how this story turns out. And right now, us talking about this and bringing all this lost wisdom back that the ancients were trying to tell us, the significance that what we really are and the choices we make every day in life may truly ripple out to aspects that we can't understand. And so I like to bring it back so that we understand how important we are in the decisions we're making. Because I think if people had that kind of mindset, that what they do matters and that they could become anything they want and potentially literally impact the entire story of humanity, it changes your daily activities and how you want to, what you want to aspire to in the future. And so I really truly feel like that there's a great battle here in our reality that we can't understand or see because we have such a very limited perception of what's exists out beyond us. We only have this very, very narrow viewpoint of the 7 colors of visible light spectrum, but we just can't see anything that's going on around us. And so it's very easy to fall into that deception that we are just an animal fighting amongst one another.
Matt, that was so beautiful. I lost my train of thought, but I wanted to say what you basically just said was, the great Pierre Sabak in his 2 books, Holographic Culture and The Murder of Reality, he talks about exactly what you just said. This is a grand experiment, and these beings that are way higher dimensional than us, the Anunnaki, maybe even others, are literally allowing us to play this emergent systems game.
Exactly.
And so if we, again, choose, right, because we're all, as you said, we have free will, we have the ability to choose resonance or dissonance. If enough of us choose resonance, the golden age will commence forth, and they, meaning the dark forces, whatever you want to call them, the death half of the wave, the left-hand path, they will stop messing with us. They will stop creating this, incoherence and allow us to become who you said, Matt, which we ultimately are destined likely to become. Billy, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. I believe that we live in a universe where entropy rules. Everything moves from an ordered state to a disordered state. And that you can see that in financial systems, you can see that in your avatar body, you can see that in anything that's man-made. Everything moves from an ordered state to a disordered state. And over time, the same thing happens as we go through this yuga cycle. And so now that we're gone through a huge amount of chaos and we're coming towards this crescendo of this chaos to move back into this organized state again. So we're going to recoalesce in this organized form and move up into that golden age. And like you said earlier, all the things necessary to have a golden age are already here right now on this planet. We have the technology, we got 3D printing, we have stem cells, we have the ability to regrow limbs, we have the capability of, if you have a broken or severed spine, we can transmit the frequency from your brain to a receiver on the other end of the spine and make the leg walk again. You don't even need to put the nerves back together anymore. We can stop Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. We can cure cancer. We have all these things here. A lot of it's being suppressed. We've got the 0 point. We're moving forward at a drip by drip pace with these cars and vehicles still using combustion engines / electricity, which electric cars still use gas. Going to the power station to get the electricity, which is running on fuel. They got us running in circles, man. But everything is here. So all it takes is for enough resonance. Just like if you put a wine glass on the table and you sitting at it and you match the resonant frequency of the atomic structure of that wine glass, it's going to explode. The same thing is happening with our consciousness. Our consciousness is sending out waves of light. Those light waves will actually leave your skull. Every thought you think creates an electromagnetic wave. Those are actually waves of light. Like Matt said, we can't see because we only see 1% of the spectrum. But those waves are going out, and those waves carry what? Frequency. So when enough of us get on that same resonant frequency, that same thought conscious frequency, we're going to shatter this illusion. And once the illusion is shattered, we're going to run right into that golden age. And what I'd like to see this time, because nowhere have I ever read, I've read over 1,000 scriptures, texts, cylinder scrolls, papyruses, and all these, cylinder scrolls, everything. And I've never seen where it said you have to start over again.
Right.
No, nowhere does it say that. So why can't we now maybe going in with knowledge this time? How can we put together a plan to sustain the golden age and not go back in this time loop again? That's the ultimate goal.
Billy, I want you to go. You just said so much, and you and I were talking off air, and I want you to relate what you said to me off air on the show because it's so important. You just said it.
Yeah.
The people right now in dissonance, right? The lower chakras, the red, the anxiety, the self-hatred, the apathy, the it's not my fault, no personal accountability. Describe to me what you told me. What is actually happening to them as this light that you just talked about, as this cosmic spiritual energy is blasting the planet, as Gerald used to say from the Oort cloud. Why are they screaming and fighting and shrill? And you see them and you're like, my God, they look like they have demonic entity attachments.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what people have to understand is the human body is the most advanced technology that we know of, not only on the planet, but that we know of from our perspective in the universe.
Right.
There's nothing more advanced than the human avatar body, period. We just haven't found it yet. There probably are beings out there more advanced than us with their avatar bodies, but from our perspective, what we can claim we know, this is super advanced. But why does DNA store information? DNA stores information from computers because it actually works together. It's compatible, which means that if you're compatible with digital bits of information, then our body needs to get updates just like your cell phone. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's happening is as we are on this arm of this galactic ring, as we orbit the galactic equator, the galaxy itself is very thick, even though it looks like a thin disk, it's very thick. And our solar system undulates up and down this galactic arm. Now we come to a point right now where we are literally at the perfect line of the galactic equator, shooting straight through to the galactic center, which is streaming all these high charged particles, cosmic rays and everything, all these energetic particles directly at us, directly interacting with our DNA and modifying and changing us, giving us updates. However, just like your cell phone, if you put your computer, you keep getting these updates. They keep telling you, you need to press this restart button so that you can actually install the updates.
Mm-hmm.
We're all getting them,
They mentioned the
we're
restart
getting them
button.
there. But people like us,
functioning.
we're clicking the restart button and we're taking the download, and then we're getting the restart, and we're coming up with a newer advanced operating system. A lot of people are still not having put in the first update. They're 30 updates behind us. And that's what you see on the streets and on the TV and all the clashing and the animalistic, barbaric behavior. Their updates they're way out of date, man. They have 40, 50 updates, haven't even pressed one button yet. That's the problem.
Beautiful, bro. It's latent DNA not being able to be upgraded. They brainwashed us to believe that DNA, the 12 strand, is junk. I mean, think of how absurd that is. And so, as you said, that energy is hitting right now. We are in the perfect, translocation. And if you are open, and again, you're up here, you're just boom, like you said, every night you wake up during the day and you're like, wow, this is amazing. Humanity, I have all this opportunity, abundance, prosperity. But you're right, if you're not updating, wow, that's so beautiful. I think that it really explains. Matt, we have probably about 13 minutes left.
Let me expand on
what you said. I want you to go.
Point I want to add.
For sure, I want you to pick up from that, but then I want you to transition us into the future.
Absolutely. I want to really quickly add what Billy said because that was brilliant. Now let's add another layer to that. What Billy said was really great. It's like we're this software that needs to be updated to constantly reach a higher state of being effective and optimal. Now the brilliance behind that is that update, reach a higher state, is only possible if you have a certain frequency or connection. Right. So let's say, for instance, you had a cell phone that you bought and you traveled out to the middle of the wilderness somewhere, right? Hypothetically. and you were like 10 years go by and you're sitting there like, man, this phone is working terrible. It's so slow, it's chugging along. Why isn't it updating? Because you have no signal. Right. Now, take that back step for a minute. How do these updates to us, how do they occur? We are, like Billy said, we're a perfect biologically designed being. Right. Not to survive based on survival of the fittest, but a perfectly designed being that has the ability to take this conscious, energetic form that defines us and utilize this avatar body to allow it to reach the maximum state of energy. In ancient cultures around the world, like the Hindus, they call that Kundalini. And that represents the maximum state of vibrational energy that we can obtain in our lifetime. And that essentially is reaching the maximum state that we can. However, the problem is that if someone is unbalanced and they never reach a higher state of vibration, even on Jay's chart over there, I'm talking basic, they can't even reach the basic states of appreciating things around them, right. Treating others with respect, understanding any kind of a connection with nature, and getting beyond the physical body and meditating, getting beyond into those types of states. If none of those things occur, it's like that antenna, they're out of reach of that signal. They don't even have the signal. The signal doesn't exist because their antenna of energy is the wrong frequency. Right. That's the way most humans on Earth are, is they have been kept in this low state of vibrational frequency where this antenna that connects to all these cosmic rays, like Billy said, throughout the galactic center and connecting all throughout the multiverse, they're not getting those because they're kept in a state they don't belong in. Mm-hmm. Once human beings reach this collective state of recognizing that we're all about being these energetic vibrational beings that have to follow these specific rules and guidelines to then graduate up to these next steps. Unless we can do that, we're all going to just be running around in circles here. And I think that one of the problems too is that when these things are bombarding us, these cosmic rays and higher vibrations are bombarding us right now, as the sun changes over into another state and all these things are happening, what we're finding is that when people aren't in that kind of vibrational frequency to accept those updates, it just drives them crazy. It's like getting all this energy and not knowing what to do with it. It's like if you take a plug that's plugged into the wall with like your TV or something, right? And it's not grounded. It's just flying all over the place with energy. There's no way to ground ourselves. That's how I see this entire reality here. And to connect it, Jay, you wanted to move into the future here, please. We're at this point now where there's more and more people all the time that are rediscovering or discovering this information and this mentality. And I get messages all the time. Billy gets messages all the time. I'm not sure Jay does, where people are like, man, I took some of the information you told me from ancient wisdom and I put it into my life. I started practicing it. Everything in my life has changed. My perspective has changed. My energy has changed. Mm-hmm. This is very real. It's so real that it is one of the only things that truly matters once you get beyond the basic things that we have here. We have to set our sights on understanding that if we don't reach a spiritual state, an equilibrium balance with both our earth and our consciousness, we will self-annihilate ourselves and destroy ourselves. That is inevitable. But the beauty behind the system here is that our avatars and our chakras have been designed so perfectly by great creator gods in the past that wish for us to reach our highest state and break out of this illusion, that it's almost inevitable that we will. That doesn't mean we just give it up and accept that the road we're going on doesn't require us to work hard to get there. But it means that the deck is stacked in the end. I think it's even connected far beyond Enki. I think it's connected on a very high cosmic level that we will achieve this higher state eventually. And it's up to individuals to recognize that it doesn't matter if you're on TV or you wrote books that are bestsellers. Everyone plays a role here. We all play a role here. And even on the most minor scale, we're all playing a part in this collective ship that's going through this cosmic ocean of reaching a higher state or destroying ourselves.
So beautiful. Okay, so I want you guys to have there's one last bullet I want to cover, and then I want you guys to have your final thoughts about what's important, right? We've already, I mean, this has been so phenomenal. I mean, but like, what should people do right now to just change things? But the last bullet point is, it's my question from your topic, Matt, is transhumanism and AI. Is there any benefit in merging technology and consciousness? I'll go to you first, Billy.
You know, there are some benefits if you're looking to heal people from different types of injuries or sicknesses or diseases, like blindness, loss of hearing, severed spinal cords, Alzheimer's, different types of mental conditions, okay? You know, Tourette syndrome, whatever you can come up with. I think that is where it needs to be directed, but there needs to be a specific set of rules and guidelines that are put into place, aren't broken. And how do you do that when you have so many different governments able to do so many different things in black budgets? I think that when you get this type of technology and it moves into, like it always does, unfortunately, into military hands, it becomes something that can be weaponized. It becomes something that can be then commercialized on a high corporate level. And then all of a sudden, you have this situation where you have potentially a new form of consciousness coming out of this AI that will eventually realize, well, what do I need people for? Mm-hmm. Every AI robot I've ever seen on a live interview has always made a claim, either, well, I want to put humans in zoos, I want to annihilate the planet, I'll launch a nuclear weapon. I'm like, yeah, wow. You know, I mean, and this is like so random. They gave these beings the opportunity to speak, and that's the first thing, you know, within the first conversation, you're already ready to get rid of people. So I think that the people that are pushing for this high-level commercial use and military use are really doing a disservice to it. And I think the Anunnaki even knew about this, because when you analyze these ancient Sumerian tablets, you realize how advanced they were. And they were so advanced, they had the capability of creating their own artificial slaves. Why would they then take and genetically modify a biological entity to make into a slave? Why? Because I think they realized, just like when they shortened our lifespan and unplugged a lot of our DNA, we got to keep control over these people. And I think they realized AI, that's going to be too hard to control. But a biological entity, we can control that pretty easily, you know?
Beautiful. Yeah. And I mean, you talked about it. I mean, we're not getting into it because we would go rabbit hole on that thing. The technology has been around, like you said, in the ancient scripts. Were touched from the beginning. Matt, just a quick byline, and then let's wrap up with what people can do right now for the future.
We're not gonna have time for the Mayan prophecies today.
I mean, I could. This guy's probably going to jump on this call in like 5 minutes. That's the only problem. I mean, I can email him. Why don't you just continue it? Let me see if I can push him back.
Okay. So I want to just expand on what Billy said. I think he's spot on. That's exactly my opinion as well, is that these types of technologies, and I guess I can add one more layer on to what he said, is that if we can take away a lot of these mundane jobs that people think that they need to do, that are just so low consciousness, if we can get rid of all those things and then change the entire system, people will actually be doing things that are really beneficial towards reaching higher states and being a productive member of a higher conscious society. I don't think people belong, you know, flipping burgers and doing these really, really simple things. And it's not against anyone who's doing those things, but I think we're better than that. We belong doing better things that allow us to reach higher states. So I think technology has a place where, and I'm sorry for anyone who's lost their job that's important in some small little rural town somewhere, to machines that take over those industries. I'm sorry, but that is inevitable. That's just going to happen because of the way the technology changes. We are better than that. We're made for doing better things. Now, on top of that, I think the danger with AI is not only can AI become self-aware and realize that humans in the state that we're in are largely like parasites in this world, causing more destruction than they are good, but they also have the ability, if we end up merging ourselves with AI technology, I think we're going to lose our soul conscious connection to this empathetic being that's connected to the earth and the cosmos. It'll be like we're just a computer, and we're not going to have those deep emotional connections that really make us who we are. Because in the end, emotions can take the form of anger and other things, but they can also take the form of love and true compassion. And I think that love and compassion is really what separates us out and makes us such an important part of this story. That may be the critical point of what makes us important in this entire story, is that we have such deep compassion and love and strive to do better and be better, that if we're just given the right opportunity and put in the right type of environment, I think we really can achieve that. But I want to just mention that we gotta be very careful of AI. Seems like every warning that has been given is out there. Every science fiction movie, every story that we see, it seems like it's the idea where if you don't create certain restrictions in place for AI, it will become so self-aware that it will try to take over and destroy the ones who created it. And I think that may be, like Billy said, the greatest fear of any creator, is that if you create a non-biological being, it may end up being a greater threat than a biological being.
By the way, we have plenty of time.
Okay, great. I would love to get to these Mayan prophecies.
Oh, we will. No, we got plenty of time. Great Spirit is monitoring this conversation. That's exactly how that happened. So, Billy, I want to go back to about something that Matt just said, and back to what you were just said too. Like, it's really love, right? Like, all we have is love as human beings. There's nothing else. Matt, you said it before, right? It doesn't matter our achievements, our books, our things, our material possessions, our monetary gains. All that stuff is nonsense. The only thing that matters at the end, again, and when I say the end of this physical avatar's, cessation, is the love that we created, the loving memories that we had, the love that we gave our children or our wives or our grandkids or, anyone that came into attachment, the people that read our books, the people that watch our podcast. That's all that matters, right? So if you really think about it,
So why did he get the phone?
We get so caught up in what you just said, Matt, this AI game, this, technology, hustle, the grind, and it's like, really what matters is like every moment that we exist.
Anyway, it don't matter.
And at that moment that we're in existence, we are attempting to, again, give and receive love. And so that to me is like what is so important. And Gerald always used to say that to us, he changed a lot, right? He was very cantankerous, and he would he would go off on his tangents, and Matt would always do a great job of pulling him back. And by the way, Matt was always so positive.
Okay, we were out, and I think that's good. We're gonna get started. Let me turn this off.
You were so amazing to me and bringing me to where I am now, Matt. So I have so much love for you.
All right, here we are. Okay, as y'all can see, I have something new going on with that title. Okay, so here's the thing. Last night, I had an epiphany, or did I prophesize my own future reality? So the thing is, last night I went on a rant, which, if you see, I got a premiere coming up tonight. That will be the rant. So anyway, when I first started when I first started becoming aware of myself, I wanted to really help single moms and, young female teenagers. But I strayed away from that. And so it has resurfaced. And the reason why the title is not what I'm going to be talking about. I just threw it out there so y'all can know that it's going to be some new content coming out, because that's where my mind is right now. My mind is on helping single moms and female teenagers. And so with that said, I am going to get started with today's live. And so also, I'm going to say this too. Within that premiere, I said that I would be, you know what, I'm not going to talk about that. Y'all see whatever. You know what, I probably don't show it. I might just keep all that to myself because, yeah, it'll be best for me. Where in the hoot nana did I, yeah, it'll be best for me. Okay, I got discombobulated that fast. But anyway, back on subject, and here we go. What I was going to talk about is living within the now. That was the topic of today's live. But I put that just to, you know, bring to you guys awareness that it will be other things going on within this channel. Let me rephrase that because I am going to have. I also spoke about that too, about me getting a new channel because of things that I want to talk about that I feel like is not suitable for this channel. But I wanted to, get you guys to become aware that it will be new content. Yeah. On another channel. Just as soon as I get it together. And so let's begin. This seems odd, no music. And I need it that way because this is gonna be a real serious live, which all of them are, but I feel like this will be more suitable for bringing awareness to you guys. So here we go. It says living within the now. In a sense, we are always in the present. Our past we know from memory, but those memories are experienced in the present. Similarly, our future is something we imagine. Again, an experience in the present. Whatever we may be thinking and doing, we are doing it now, even when we are totally wrapped up in thoughts about the past or the future. The thoughts themselves are happening now. When we say we are not in the present, we really mean that our attention is not in the now. It is looking back to the past or forward to the future to return to the present. Read that. Okay. It's like me listening to that lecture. It put my mind state in a whole total, like, I just want to just talk about that now instead of talk about what I had presented for this live. Isn't that lovely? Because they was talking about a lot of things that I know that are so overlooked, but it should be overlooked amongst certain people because they ain't on their frequency. But anywho, I think that was the purpose of me going live, for me to share that that information with you guys, because like right now I'm just discombobulated and I don't know. I'm not going to be able to continue. Yeah, so I'm going to go live as I planned on doing, which would be Thursday. Thursday was the original date for me to go live. This morning, I supposed to went live on my Inner Guidance Consulting channel, but I overslept because of my happening last night. So, hey, everything worked out. But I got, inspiration from just being in my, being present. And I found, old content and things that would allow me to focus better on what I'm trying to do now, or what I'm going to do now. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up, y'all. That was my purpose of going live, was to share that information, because my mind ain't even in that space right now to even do this reading. So anything else I want to say? No, it's nothing else. Oh, y'all brace yourself for the time traveling premiere. Yeah. I talk a lot about, what my mindset state was when I was, well, I don't talk a lot about it. I mentioned it when I did that my little rant last night, which went horribly wrong. So, but it went right because I got out things and I released, and then it made me, more aware of other things that I wasn't aware of while I was releasing it after I got through with the video and I rewatched it. So that's a good thing. So my thing is to just stay in tune with myself and just always be authentic. It's the only way to go. Because other than that, you're gonna be a walking zombie and don't even know it. Anywho, like I said, I'm gonna wrap this up. I want to make sure that I tell you guys everything I need to tell y'all before the premieres start or before I go live next time, because I'm not going live anymore until Thursday. So I don't think there's nothing else left for me to say. I wanted to talk a little about my little thingy here, my booklet I made, but I think I'll wait until Thursday to talk about that. But yeah, I'll be all over the place on y'all, huh? But it doesn't be like that all the time. It's just, I don't know. It's something that the camera triggers something in my head when I go live, and I'll be like, "What is this? This is not really how I speak." Once the camera goes on, it's like I really gotta be like, in my zone to really tune y'all out to really do what I need to be doing at that time. Meaning presenting the information to you guys in the most, comprehensible way. But yeah, I don't think there's nothing more that I have to say. Then you guys have a wonderful day, and I'm going to do the same. And we will meet again on Thursday, which is, what is Thursday? Thursday, the day is Sunday. So Thursday would be the 28th. Yeah, I hate the 8th. 28th. Not sure what time, but that's when I'll be back. And I will be back with some more information about how I intend on, putting this all together about the single mom club, because I'm so serious about this, if I want to see something different within my life, I got to do something different. And that's the most important part of my life right now. It used to be on, love and stuff like that, but it's not there anymore. It's on building, building things that really is going to, bring upon a change for just other people, not just myself, but others as well. But anyhow, I am so rambling. But anyhow, y'all have yourself a beautiful days. And like I said, I'll be back on the 28th, and that live is gonna be way more better. But I just wanted to get that information out because I feel like it was really important. And I could have recorded it and put it in something, but I wanted to show my face. I really wanted to build some type of rapport today, but I see wasn't that many people here, so that's not going to happen. So until next time, but next time, next Thursday, I will be, explaining a lot of new things that's going on, and you know, being more active with you guys, and you know, letting y'all get the feel of who really Miss Lady Z is, because I know that's important, not as far as my, personal life, but as far as my business life and what I can bring to you guys on a more self-development way. But anywho, I'm gone. Y'all have a good night. Y'all have a good evening.